What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another edition of the Sunday League Streamers podcast. I'm your host, Steve McCutcheon, with my two co-hosts, Vito Anizelli and Michael Noen. We have another great show for you guys today. Before that, please take a moment, hit the bell, subscribe to us on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, and wherever else you find your podcast. Also, follow us on Twitter at the SL_Screamers_pod. We're going to get right into the show from these notes. We got a big talking point over in the Premier League right now, and we have our second manager sacking of the year. Nuno's out at Spurs. How do we feel about that, Michael Noen?
I have to double check myself, but I'm pretty sure when this whole saga first started, I said he'd be lucky to make it. I think I said around Thanksgiving. I probably should have bet a little bit earlier because I thought they gave him a little bit more time, but a couple 3-0 defeats. I think 0 shots on target in about 90 minutes or a game and a half of football. Doesn't look well, doesn't bode well, not attacking, pretty shitty, terrible manager not terrible manager, but tactically he didn't know how to get the best out of the player. So it makes sense. I'm happy they got rid of him because he was a dead man walking, in all honesty, and I'm glad they didn't drag it out. If reports are to believe, it's not officially confirmed by the club yet, but Antonio Conte, yours truly as a Blues fan, is coming to manage Tottenham, just like Jose did. So at AVB. So we'll see how this pans out, but obviously much more reason to be optimistic if the rumors are true with Conte, because he is a serial winner in the prime of his managerial career at this moment in time. I'll be really curious to see the dichotomy between him and Levy, or if that's even a thing. And apparently he's been promised, I would assume he's been promised a lot of money. So how tight those purse strings actually are, and a lot of questions. But if there's one person who could turn the ship around currently, I would have to say it's him. Mm-hmm. But then if there's one team who could break Antonio Conte, it's Tottenham. So
yeah, no, I'm with you. I mean, I'm under the opinion, I have been for a really long time, that Antonio Conte is one of the best, if not the best manager on the planet. That guy can go into any team and he tailors his team around his players, not the other way around, though. Not the way that some managers like to come in and change their players' positioning and try to make them play their style. He already knows these guys' strength, and he's coming into a team. Yeah. And he's coming into a team that is not all that dissimilar to how he was at Inter, with the big, strong striker and Harry Kane. You're going to have the pace of Son, who you're going to be able to pair up with him, just like he did with Lautaro Martinez. It just is a little curious because, to your point, Mike, and Antonio Conte has a history of souring with the board because he's not getting the funding.
Yeah.
So this doesn't seem like he's even going to make it to the end of the year at this point. It's like
I was personally kind of thinking, like, how long will it take before he gets fed up? I want to say, I think the contract reportedly is 18 months. I think he makes it to a year and then that's it.
Yeah.
I just don't see Daniel Levy shelving out more than $150 million. And that's not,
even then, I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, I just can't foresee it unless they either sell players, which is a possibility, or they get some type of naming rights deal or something along those lines, which they might be close to at this point in time. So
speaking of selling players, obviously we had a massive saga the entire summer with Harry Kane. Does he stay now?
I think this is definitely got to excite him, to say the least. I personally don't think he will stay. Also, I don't think Tottenham will sell him again because he's been playing horrifically, and his asking price, if he was $120 million or $130 million, he's probably like 60 right now. He's playing terribly. From what I read online, the reason Antonio Conte denied Spurs initially in the summer was because there was still uncertainty about Kane's future. And he's got bet on the record saying how much he loves Kane, how much he would want to work with Kane, right, when he was at Chelsea. And now because they didn't sell Kane, that was part of a big reason why he decided to come to Tottenham, supposedly, is because he has the assurance that Kane will still be there, at least for like that following tenure, for a decent amount of time. So we'll see what happens. But I know, kind of to Vito's point, there are pieces there like that are similar to what Inter had. If you want to, not like for like, obviously, but Reguilon, who loves to get forward, Hakimi, who loves to get forward. You're just inverting that, right? You have Kane, who's like that Romelu Lukaku type. Son, who can come up top. I mean, Romero in the back. Like, there is a semi-spine of a team there, but he's definitely got his work cut out for him.
Do you think they're deep enough? I truly like. At
No,
this point,
they're
really
not at all. They're not deep enough at all. not to make a serious run at anything.
No,
So.
I still think this doesn't change the fact that I don't believe Tottenham will end up in the top 4 either.
No, not at all.
I think they have a better opportunity of it, but I think ultimately they still fall short. Although, you know what, to your point, I mean, I know the drubbing at United was a little rough this week, and we'll get to that later, but you guys haven't been doing all that bad. You really haven't. Like your points are being accrued. What are you in?
Look at the stats.
Are you watching the same games?
Oh no. They look like shit. That's for sure. They definitely look like dog shit. I'm not saying that, but he did get you guys some results. Like, I think this would have happened whether or not Nuno was at the helm or not. I really don't know how much it's the latest doorstep.
I think those players did not respect him for a split second, knowing he was like the 8th choice manager coming in, and they got lucky with a couple results in the beginning. And in all honesty, like that team, as evidence of Pochettino, because a lot of those players are still there for the most part.
Yeah,
like, they played when they have the right person in charge. They play better than some of their parts. And I think Conte has that ability. I don't think Mourinho had that ability, or at least maybe he did in the beginning, but he lost it. Nuno never had it.
Yeah.
So
Tottenham's the last team without a draw this season.
They usually do that though. They did
that last year too. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It took like 30 games or something. It took forever.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, I think it's the right appointment, and it's and I have bigger questions more of the board than anything, because, they obviously wanted him in June, and there was obviously all those talks about, hey, we want to sign Conte, but Conte didn't want to come. And then they went for Nuno. So it's kind of like in my head, like, this is total negligence on the board, and they burned 6 months
and $10 million.
And 10 million. In all honesty, I'd be curious how much money Spurs have spent on managers in the past 3 years versus like their transfer budget, because they probably have paid more for like the players they've even brought in.
I think Jose typically has very, very good terms when it comes to getting fired in all of his contracts. I'm not kidding. I think for some reason he gets paid out very handsomely afterwards.
He does. Very Jose.
It is, right? Just to stick it to him one last time.
Yeah. So I mean, we'll see what happens, but
absolutely, Conte's typically, he usually shores up the defenses anywhere he goes first off. So we'll see if the guys just start grinding out those 1-0s again, and then maybe just somehow start being a little bit more creative up front.
Yep.
Let's head over to something Tottenham hasn't seen or is not going to see for a while, possibly the Champions League. Tuesday, we got Malmo hosting Chelsea. Pulisic on United States front is traveling with the squad, back from injury. Finally, took a long time. Thoughts on that game?
Yeah, I mean, I expect it to be, I don't want to say a walk in the park, but another fairly straightforward game for them. It's nice to see Pulisic going. I'm wondering how fit he actually is, knowing that Chelsea are going to be without Mount, Werner, and Lukaku, so they need that extra little attacking depth. But I think this will be fine for Chelsea. I don't think there's too much resistance there.
I think maybe he gets like 10, 15 minutes just to run around.
Yeah.
And assuming the game's like pretty much won at that point, no disrespect to Malmo, but that's why I would assume he's coming, just to give him that little bit of run of fitness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then maybe at the weekend against Burnley, we'll get to that later, but probably where we'll see a lot more of them. Then we got a big one over in Italy, Atalanta hosting Man U. Man U obviously just had that big win against them. After was it the Ronaldo winner that game?
Technically, Ronaldo scored first in the volley. Beautiful finish.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Man U's up in first place now after that, shock defeat to Young Boys on day one. Atalanta sitting down there in third. What do we got?
You can't pick anything when it comes to this United team. You don't know if you're going to get the 3-0 team from last week or the 5-0 loss the week before. It's so up in the air. But I mean, they're away from home, and they had enough trouble as it was last time. Yeah. So I think they're going to be in trouble in Italy.
I would agree. I mean, defensively, Tottenham obviously could not expose it for the life of them, but the game against Liverpool, some of the prior games, like they've been getting bailed out by Ronaldo, and Atalanta are no scrubs. They're tactically very, very well coached and well drilled. And I'm not saying they're at that Liverpool level, but they're more than capable of cutting that team open very easily in the back. So
absolutely, their style I think fits perfectly to beat a team like Man U, especially at home, and a little bit of a revenge game too.
Mm-hmm.
Then over on Wednesday we got Man City hosting Club Brugge. Anything but an ass whooping in this one, or
No, same thing as last time.
Yeah, it's Man City.
And they're
then
going to be pissed.
a little bit more of a competitive. Oh yeah, oh it's true. They're coming off the Crystal Palace loss. That's
Yeah,
just
they're not going to be happy.
that's rough. That's rough.
Poor guys.
And then we got a little bit more competitive game. Liverpool hosting Atletico Madrid.
Yeah, probably game of the day Wednesday for sure. I think Liverpool is going to have this. It's going to be the same problem for them. Atletico know what they're doing. Diego Simeone is no slouch. And I know it's in Anfield this time around, but you never sleep on the front two of Luis Suarez and Antoine Griezmann. So I think it's going to end up as a draw this time around.
I could see that. They did drop points at Anfield this past weekend from a 2-0 winning lead. Maybe they kind of come in, they kind of have that feeling to come back. But Atletico Madrid, to your point, if there's one thing they're just amazing at, they're well coached at, they just plug every single hole defensively and they crack you on counters. So
Liverpool didn't win that one until late on, even with the extra red card to Griezmann.
Yeah,
as well,
and I'm not sure they deserved to lose that game, Atletico.
No, so I could easily see Atletico sneaking out like a either a draw or like a 1-0 type of win here. So
real quick, while we're on the topic of this group, AC Milan's in this group, and I just wanted to make a quick point that they have yet to get a point in the Champions League and are one of the only undefeated teams left in the entire continent domestically.
Really?
That's
Talk
pretty,
about absolutely no status on the big stage.
That's pretty random.
Yeah. They're 10-1-0, tied with points for Napoli for like the best start to the season in all 5 leagues. And they literally cannot get a goal if their life depended on it in the Champions League.
Well, that's
Very
unique.
Yeah. I wonder.
Probably not something you want to lead on either.
Yeah.
That's probably got to be like one of those, like if you ever watch like Yankees or Mets growing up and they had like those like random stats where it's like, and when he pitches like on the 7th inning and it's a blue moon outside.
Yep. He's betting 257 against lefties with Z, who are also Pisces. Unbelievable. Yeah, but
I feel you. Let's head over to the Stars and Stripes section where we go over any of the United States men's national team players from across the globe, some good performances and some standouts. First up, gotta call him out. Joe Scally had another great weekend. He's in it like a weekly starter over at Gladbach right now. He played 90 minutes, had an assist, 3 chances created, 8 out of 14 duels won, 7 recoveries, and was even fouled 5 times. He also put in a midweek shift, 69 minutes when Gladbach absolutely thrashed Bayern in the what is it, the DFB?
The Pokal.
So honestly, crime against humanity. If this man doesn't get called into the camp, Greg Berhalter should immediately hand in his resignation. I don't know what else he has to do in order to get a call up at this point. He's clearly going to be able to push Jetty and Desk on both sides of the right back, left back. Doesn't really matter. This kid is pretty legit. He's only 18 years old.
yeah.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see, especially like on the left back side, because I think that's probably where he'd be more needed than anything. Because Jedi is, in particular, he has good games where he's very energetic, but I wouldn't say the end product is always there for him. So I'd be curious to see from Scally's perspective if he's able to really deliver the goods and help out in terms of the assists, the goals, if there is any in him. Because I think that's where he could really make his mark, at least with the US. So if he ever wants to overtake Jedi on the left, because I think Des probably has that right back spot pretty locked right now. So
I think he pushes both of them, to be honest with you. Jetty much better over the past 6 months to a year than he was previously, and he's made massive improvements. Desk, I kind of feel like he did the reverse a little bit, although he's starting to come back in the form now where he was always really impressive, and then kind of maybe over the last 6 months, a year, not as well.
Yeah.
So, but moving on, we got Weston McKennie.
Yeah, Weston had a good week, even if that means Juventus didn't. Back to three days apart and 2-1 losses for Juventus, but Weston McKennie on the score sheet both times, so he's having a really good week. It seems like he's earned his place back in that team. He was a bit in and out for a while, kind of the same way he was with the United States, although I think that situation might have been slightly different. Yeah. But yeah, no, he 90 minutes against Sassuolo, and he was on as a sub. So I mean, good for him grabbing 2 goals in what a team that's underperforming in general.
Big time. What are they in?
They're exactly Tottenham. They have 9th place with 15 points. The only difference is in the Premier League, Tottenham's like 3 points off of the top 4, and Juventus is like 10 to 15.
Jesus.
Yeah, because Napoli and AC Milan have only dropped 2 points all season.
Yeah.
Well, that's impressive. Heading over to Scotland, I think it is, right? Cameron Carter-Vickers.
Yeah, for Celtic, CCV for Celtic. 2 90-minute performances. He had a clean sheet in one, and then also a 3-1 win against Hibernian, where he also scored and had 9 clearances, 3 recoveries, 3 receptions, 3 aerial duels, 1. So I guess from this perspective, Cameron Carter-Vickers, since he's made this move away from Spurs to Celtic, he's been a pretty consistent player for them. And
lights out, honestly.
Given I don't want to say the woes, but the question marks, we can say that defensively with some of the center backs that the U.S. have had recently, does he deserve some type of call up? Does he deserve to be in that conversation?
Conversation, yes. Call up this camp, I would say probably not.
Agreed.
Although if he was called in, I wouldn't argue it. But at the same time, I don't know. I feel like Greg's got his guys. Plus, with the emergence of Miles Robinson, how well he's actually done, and like just came onto the international scene so quickly. You got Brooks, Robinson, Richards.
Brooks, you can even make a case that he's descending because the past couple of weeks, like Champions League,
he's definitely out of form compared to the beginning of the season.
Like, I mean, he looks just totally off the pace for the most part. So,
I wouldn't disagree. But still, he's obviously the most experienced center back we have back there. And typically, besides the last month or so, he's usually right on point. But I wouldn't be upset if Cameron got called into camp. But do I see it happening on this one specifically? Probably not. Moving on over to the MLS, actually, we got Daryl DK. He also had 2 90-minute performances in the past week, scored in a 3-2 loss to Columbus and a 1-1 draw to Nashville, which actually should have been a win. Did you guys see the ending to that Orlando game by any chance or no?
No, I didn't see that one.
Did not.
So it was probably a little past the 90th minute. Free kick was put into the box. DK goes in for it, gets pushed from the back from a defender. So the ball clicks off the post back to another guy in Orlando. He scores, and somehow DK got the foul called on him. Not really sure how that made no sense. The only gripe I guess I want to say I have with DK is he's just not technical enough yet, and he's legitimately just, in my opinion, a straight up poacher. Doesn't have any really link up abilities, hold up abilities, or anything along those lines, which Berhalter needs to see in a striker, like someone like Ricardo Pepe, who's kind of coming onto the scene right now. So if he worked on the technical part of his game, I don't think he's out of the question for the future for United States men's national team. But for the time being, he's definitely down on the pecking order at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, when you have a player like P-Folk, who's probably the most like comparison with him on our team in particular, who's got the more technical ability, at least given the way he plays and with the Swiss young boys, I feel like you have to go P-Folk in that scenario if you're choosing one or the other. If you need to bring a guy on to throw up in the box, like to get a nab an equalizer, try to go for the winner at the end of a game, it's probably the guy you want to put up there.
I agree. No, absolutely. Then we had a few honorable mentions as well, Mike.
We do. So Yedlin, 2-0 clean sheet over Galatasaray, or for Galatasaray, excuse me. Matt Turner, man of the match performance in an unbelievable New England Revolution team, and a win against Colorado. Ream, Robinson together pitched a shutout, 3-0 win against West Brom. And Aronson, the stud that he is, assist in a 2-2 draw. Speaking of another Aronson too, his younger brother, I saw Paxton scored a pretty nice goal too for the Philadelphia Union. I think he's like 17 or 18, and another one to watch. He's probably going to go to Salzburg, join his brother.
Yeah.
So. Dude, he actually scored. His brother actually scored a worldie. I want to say back in the summer, like right before we started the podcast. I mean, like one of it. Like I think it was his first goal in the MLS, an absolute belter too. To announce himself.
That'd be pretty sweet to see two brothers tearing it up on the international stage. So.
Yeah,
I'd like it, kind of like the Hazard brothers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If one of them was anywhere remotely close to Eden Hazard, I would.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Or Thorgan Hazard.
Although nowadays, I saw you might be hard pressed to find someone who says he's better still.
Fun fact: did you guys see the transfer rumors with Eden Hazard right now going on
to Newcastle?
It's all Newcastle and Chelsea. Yeah, both of them linked to.
Yeah, everyone's going to be, and their mother's going to be linked to Newcastle.
Problem is he's making like 400,000 pounds a week. So there's like very few teams that were willing to take him off their hands.
Well, Newcastle just happens to be one of them. So.
Newcastle's
I heard they have
a
$100 million shirt sponsor coming in next season. I don't know. Did you guys hear
Yeah,
that?
exactly.
Maybe $1 billion, actually. Let's head over to the Barclays Premier League weekly recap that we usually do. Starting off on Saturday morning at Leicester 0, Arsenal 2.
Yeah, I think this scoreline's a little flattering to Arsenal. I mean, while they did come out and hit them early, as good teams do, they take advantage of that early on. Leicester was very far from being out of this game. I mean, they had almost double possession. Yeah. They've outshot them in every major stat category. I think Leicester dominated them on them. Aaron Ramsdale was man of the day. He made several massive saves when it looked like Leicester were starting to gain momentum and you thought one might be on the cards. Still making me a little nervous right now. I know they're in a decent run of form, but just because you won 2-0, you gotta enjoy the way your team's playing. And if I'm an Arsenal fan, that's a little bit of a bittersweet result for me.
I'm going to be honest. I've definitely shit on Aaron Ramsdale before.
Yeah, me too. We probably have that on record somewhere.
Yeah. But I will give him credit for that performance in particular. He has been lights out for Arsenal since taking over that number 1 spot. And the save against James Maddison too, that free kick was, oh my God, unbelievable.
He seems like one of the only players that wants to be playing with emotion on that team at all times.
Yeah, he looks really good in all honesty. So at first I was very critical of that signing, but
a lot of people questioned it though.
He's proving to be worth the money. So good kudos to him to have the mental fortitude to come back from probably a year and a bunch of shit talking against him, myself included. So
that was a weird game to see though, because you got Leicester, Arsenal, both teams that, like we said before, between like Man U, Tottenham. I feel like there's a bunch of teams this year, probably between that like 5 to like 12th spot in the table. You don't know what you're going to get on a given day with any of them.
Agreed.
Yeah.
And honestly, even
very
to this
strange
extent, you can say the same thing about City and Liverpool.
Liverpool, no. City
finds a striker. It's back to normal.
Yeah, but they don't have them right now. Liverpool's got 4 draws already. They've drawn 4 of the 10 games they play, 40% of their matches. That's not a Liverpool team.
No, but still in second place, not out of it.
This is true.
Then we head over to the best game of the year for this team. Burnley 3, Brentford 1.
Yeah. In all honesty, I've been watching a lot of Burnley lately, not just because of Sean Dyche, but because I've been being forced to, because we got to cover all these games. And I'll be honest, this was by far the best game I have watched Burnley play this entire year. The first 45 minutes, they completely blew Brentford out of the water. They were hitting them on the counterattack. Brentford looked like a fish out of water. It was pretty impressive in all honesty. And in particularly someone I've been eyeing and watching and kind of talking up since they signed him, Max Cornet. That dude is on fire. He scored an awesome goal for the 3rd goal to kind of pretty much put the game out of reach. Brentford nicked 1 back, I believe. Right? It was a 3-1.
Yeah, it was like towards the 78th, 80th minute.
Yeah, but at that point, the game was wrapped up. Cornet in particular, I think he is proving to be a real difference maker. And I said it before, but he's going to be the reason probably why that team stays up if he keeps performing at the way he's performing.
Whoa, not Sean Dyche?
Well, Sean Dyche, yeah, but I mean, obviously it comes down to the players on the pitch also. And that guy has an X factor that team hasn't had in a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
No, absolutely. 100%. On the Brentford side though, 3 straight losses in the Premier League. Is the honeymoon phase over for them? And are they about to start scrapping for points constantly, or a little bit of an issue with the run of form and they're going to get right back up rolling?
I think the honeymoon's over. I said earlier on in the season, I think you can only maintain that level of fitness and that level of energy for a certain amount of time. And I think they're blowing through the tank now at this point. If it was 1 or 2, a draw maybe, but now they were soundly defeated by a team who recorded their first win this week. I think they need to start getting a little worried if results don't start turning around pretty soon.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's maybe like you hit I guess not the panic button, but the caution sign, I guess, like we can call it that. Definitely a reason to worry. I think you still give it a little bit of time, but yeah, we'll see. I want to let it play out a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay. Then we head over to, we were kind of alluded to it before, but we got Liverpool 2, Brighton 2. Honestly, I thought it was a pretty good game in general, just as a neutral perspective. And Brighton took points away at Anfield for the second straight year. Henderson and Mane, early strikes to get the lead for Liverpool. It was 2-0. I think within, was it 20 minutes? Not
Something
even.
like
Yeah,
that.
they were blowing through them within.
It was
20
pretty
minutes.
quick. But even before
Yeah.
then, I thought Brighton had a chance or two. And I don't know if I'm Johnson White and Wempu scored
Sure.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
Weepu?
Scored an absolute worldie, and Trossard after the break equalized and canceled out the first 2 goals for Liverpool. There was 3 goals disallowed for this one handball, 2 offsides. So it really could have been gone either way. In my opinion, though, kind of thought Liverpool were lucky to get points.
I completely agree.
Allison had, if I remember correctly, 2 beautiful saves, especially over in the first half, and maybe one later in the game too. Thought Brighton took it to them, had great pressure on them. The results haven't been going their way now. They've had 4 draws and a loss in their last 5, so obviously different compared to the start of the season for them. But probably their best game in a few. And like Vito said before, Liverpool finding a way to drop points right now instead of taking all 3.
Yeah, it definitely seems like this Liverpool team, it's to your point, Steve, is in previous years, if they were ever behind, you never counted them out of coming to get points, even if that just meant salvaging a draw. Now it's the exact opposite. When they're leading, they feel shaky in the second half of games. They feel like they're going to leak in a goal or two and then just change the complexion, which is what happened this week. I think you're right. Brighton have been mentally probably one of the toughest teams in the league this year. How many times have they had a claw back? They've clawed back and gotten a win or just salvaged a draw. So
I feel you. Mike, any input on Liverpool? Not really too much.
No, I mean, I get the reason for concern around the draws and things of that nature, but I still think Liverpool is, at this moment in time, I think they're probably the most informed team in the Premier League, in my opinion. I just, the way they've been playing, the way Salah in particular has been playing, and Mane is clicking. I wouldn't count them out of anything right now. I think it was just a lapse of judgment and a lapse of error. I think they're by far the best team, even though they're technically in second right now. I don't think they'll end there.
Yeah,
I got you. Yeah, Salah's having a player of the year type of year right now, so no doubt about it. He can help carry them. Then over to Newcastle. Nil. Chelsea 3.
I don't think that country is going to be too happy with their purchase right now. They just got it. I mean, they got taken to the screws, man. Reece James, 2 goals, incredible volleys from, I think both were outside the box, were they not?
No, they're both inside, but
just slightly inside.
Almost identical goals, one with each foot.
Yeah, exactly. But again, good credit to Chelsea. In the past, you felt like that Chelsea team just didn't have what it took to break down teams that were going to sit in a low block, and it was a little nervous trying to watch them do it. Pictures of sorry ball all the time. But finding a way to do it without Lukaku and without Werner. Kai Havertz looks very good. Obviously, Reece looked good. So good win from them. But I think really the story here is now, after this week's worth of games, where Norwich are and where Newcastle are in the table, not just in the table, but actually on points.
Mm-hmm.
They're now 8 points out of the safe zone.
And the gap's starting to grow. Where previously,
bigger.
A couple weeks ago, it was like a win. Now you're talking a 3-game difference.
Yes, and I think now is the time to be hitting the panic button for this club, like big
100%.
time panic button.
100%. They still haven't figured out their manager yet, have they? Or signed, or in terms of like a long term.
They're gonna come snake Conte from you.
That's honestly, I was thinking about that, and I was like, he probably is just coming to Tottenham just to drive up his own price for when he goes to Newcastle tomorrow morning.
Probably.
Smart man.
Probably.
Knows how to negotiate.
But
I find it kind of ironic though with the Newcastle thing. Like we joke about it. I don't know what the valuation happens to a club when they go from the Premier League down to the Championship, but it's got to be cut in half.
Yeah, they're definitely overpaying at this point.
Yeah. To Vito's point, though, panic button 100% for Norwich, for Newcastle. You got to be thinking kind of about that table and the points in particular. Like you said, Steve, 3 games most likely for them to even climb out of that. Realistically, the 2 teams that they'll probably have to jump over, Burnley, who are not the easiest. Leeds will probably move up the table a little bit.
I think
Leeds are actually officially out of the zone at 10 points.
Yeah. But, Watford, Villa, which is kind of surprising to see Villa there. But Watford, Villa, Leeds, right? And out of those three teams, you would probably take just based on form, you'd probably have to say Watford would be the closest to drop down there.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It seems like the gap is getting bigger for them on a daily basis. So
Burnley are still in an okay spot, but I think that, to your point, where Newcastle and Norwich are, I mean, I don't know. You win 0 games out of 10 and you're 6 points already seems like a too big of a leap to get for them to get over,
Yeah, I don't see Burnley going on a 5-game winning streak by any means. But if you had to pick any of those 3 teams to do so right now, it's not even a question. It's them versus the other 2. And then Watford's probably on their way down. Like you said, Leeds should be on their way up eventually, especially when they get Bamford back. That's huge.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then who else is there? Aston Villa. I can't. I just for the life of me, I can't see them even without Grealish.
Yeah, and
the
same with
signings they've
Southampton.
made.
I don't see those teams going down. So
it's really looking right now like if Watford's a weird one though, like we just said, like they can put in shifts like they did against Everton, dropping 5 goals, and then go to the next game and just have 0.
Yeah,
Weird, but
very odd.
Because of the inconsistencies, something along those lines. I could see, them, Newcastle, Norwich, in my opinion, would probably be the top 3 favorites right now. Heading over to Manchester City, where we had probably the shock of the weekend. Man City 0 and Crystal Palace 2.
My boys, the Palace boys, I've been saying it, been talking them up. They got that win. I didn't want to do it on the bold predictions. I said a draw last week. I knew I should have said a win. We were talking about it, Steve. But regardless, a great 2-0 win for Crystal Palace. Awesome game for them. Deserved all 3 points. And realistically, Zaha, had a nice early goal in the 6th minute after a pretty shitty giveaway. And then Laporte got sent off for a pretty obvious denial goal scoring opportunity.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what they were trying to argue with that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what he was really trying to get at, but whatever. Kudos to him. And Conor Gallagher, looked phenomenal towards that entire game. Ended up with the late goal for Palace. Like we talked about for this team in particular, we'll get into City in a second, but for Palace, this is one of those like test games where they're now kind of getting that confidence level. They're probably going to start thinking, okay, we can start closing some of these games out now, climbing the table. That was a really big win for them. And not just from like a points perspective, but I think mentally from a confidence perspective. So
yeah, I think they have, I don't have the table in front of me, but I want to say they have 6 draws, right? It's something ridiculous.
Palace?
They got a lot. Yeah,
Palace. I think they're like 2-6.
Yeah, they have exactly.
They got 6. Yeah.
Like, and they probably lost, or 3 of them are probably coming from winning positions.
Yeah.
At least.
Yeah. They've drew 4 of the last 5 games before that win.
Yeah. So that's a massive confidence boost. I mean, you go away to City, theoretically one of the best teams in the world.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Pulling that result.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
With the young squad. Yeah. They're going to be feeling good.
What, how do we feel about City in a sense though? Because we talked about it a little bit before, the no striker thing. They didn't look like anything going. I'm gonna say they weren't attacking. They were definitely attacking, but going down a man didn't help. Just from the eye test, especially in the first half, even when it was 11-on-11, I thought Crystal Palace deserved 3 points from that game.
Yeah, this game reminded me a little bit of when they played PSG, where I didn't think they were the better team this day, but they were against PSG, but they couldn't find a way to do it. And even when a team like City goes down to 10 men, you still think they're going to be able to put in a showing that's probably going to get them points off of a team down in 15th, 16th place in the Premier League. So it's starting to become a worry. Pep's trying out a couple different things. Clearly, some of his guys aren't happy. You hear Sterling talking about that he wants to maybe move on from the club, play abroad. And I think that team's at ends, and it doesn't help that now next week they have the Manchester derby, and Laporte's not going to be in that game.
Did you hear his comments?
Sterling?
Not Sterling, but Pep. He was recently quoted by saying like, "Hey, are you going to like manage City for like the next couple of years? Like, do you think you'll hit like another 100 games, 200 games, something like that?" And he was like, "Nah." He's like, I don't foresee that happening. Like, I think he's also kind of starting to think too, like 1 foot out the door. What's the next project? In my opinion. So,
well, he was actually talking about that he was thinking of retiring when he was done coaching City, but or maybe like the national team he wanted to do. I think he mentioned, but Pep has never spent more than
a U.S. team job.
Oh my God, imagine.
I think every U.S. fan would absolutely cream their pants, and that's an understatement.
A lot
I
of
mean,
splooge.
there was a lot of talk that he wasn't going to re-sign with City after that third year, but I think he's now getting that old Fraudiola comment where it's like this guy goes and spends all of the money and just rebuilds everything the way he wants it perfectly, and then he still can't succeed in Europe with it, arguably what's been the best team year over year in the last 4 years. And I bet you that's in the back of his mind. I mean, it's that or bust. I don't think honestly, I don't want to say they don't give a shit, but if I'm them, I don't give a shit about the Premier League.
Champions League
I've won it, three of the last 4 years?
100%. Yeah.
It's the Champions League or nothing. That's the only thing I care about if I'm that team.
I mean, you spend over $1 billion, like,
yeah.
Same with PSG. Like, that's all you give a shit about.
Yeah,
like,
that's all you care about.
Yeah.
And then they were the money guys. They were the big money team. And once PSG put that team together, I could only imagine what mentally that Man City locker room sounded like.
Probably pretty empty because their stadium's not that full.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Heading over to for nil. Hampton, beautiful strike into the top corner was pretty much this game. This is for Watford though. Sarr beat Foster and the ball was cleared off the line. And then Fletcher in the 88th minute hit an absolute lethal strike, but Foster was up for the save. Big win for Southampton, moving up to 14th in the table. They actually leapfrogged Watford with that win, so that's big for them. But big letdown for Watford, in my opinion, after the 5 goals they just scored against Everton. We mentioned it before with the inconsistencies and stuff. So Southampton, I see staying up. I think against teams of where they're at in the table or lower, they're going to get those 3 points because of how well they play against teams in the top half of the table right now.
Yep.
So good, big win for them. Boost themselves up and give themselves a little bit of a cushion.
Did you think that Southampton was a little lucky to get 3 points?
Slightly. Because the goal Che Adams scored was a phenomenal goal, but it wasn't like throughout that game.
I didn't feel like
unless I'm remembering incorrectly, it didn't like create a ton of clear-cut chances.
Yeah, just like it felt like Watford should have had 1 or 2, and it took a wonder strike for them to get it. So it was like made me a little concerned for them a little bit. Still, I was curious what you guys thought.
Yes and no. I mean, listen, it was the only shot they had on target the entire time was the goal. So in terms of accuracy, I guess
efficiency
in that sense. But yeah, very efficient, right? Actually, no, horrible efficiency. 1 for 12.
Yeah,
good accuracy on one shot though.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't have been shocked if that game was a draw. Like Mike said, it was a individual brilliance kind of moment where you got the 3 points. But we see that a lot from top teams too, right? That have struggled to create for the day, and then an Eden Hazard pops up or Ronaldo pops up and just something changes and, they come up big.
Yeah.
So this time just having to be Che Adams. Then heading over to Spurs 0, Man U 3.
Yeah, Man United's back on the horse. I mean, both these guys are obviously the model of inconsistency at the moment. Spurs win their opening 3 games and then they drop like the next 3, and United can't figure out if they want to score 4 or let in 4. But it was a good performance by United. It was a little cagier towards the beginning of that game. Ronaldo had a beautiful volley, although the pass from Bruno was even better. And from there, it seemed like everything just was kind of going United's way a little bit better in terms of penetration. I mean, Tottenham didn't have a shot on target the entire game. They had 60% of the ball. They completed over 150 more passes than United. They didn't play terribly, but ultimately you can't win a game if you don't shoot the ball at the net, So you understand why Nuno had to go. At the end of the day, it is what it is. But a big test for United next week now is the Manchester derby. It feels like they got a little bit of a boost with Varane back and Laporte being out for that game, but I don't know. It wasn't convincing from United, even though the scoreline suggests that it might have been.
Yeah, they got 2 big games. So don't forget they're flying over to Italy for the midweek Champions League.
And the Champions League,
and then they're coming right back for the Man U derby or the Manchester derby.
So
can't let up off the horse. What do you guys think about Ole at the wheel though? I mean,
I think he's driving it off a cliff.
But like, does it not feel like he's just teetering the entire time? It's like, up 1 big win.
You saw Ronaldo making fun of his tactics on the sideline?
No, I didn't.
Ole standing on the touchline, after they conceded a goal against Liverpool, right? And Ole's like doing this shit with his hands, like he's like this, and Ronaldo's mimicking him while he's on the field, like making fun of him while he's in the middle of the game. And I was like, if that's not a sign that your best player thinks this, like, what the hell are you doing, dude? Like, this makes no sense. Then I don't know what else is.
Yeah. Well, now that Conte, who was supposedly the replacement, is
Yeah.
at Spurs. I'm just curious. They probably can't get rid of him at this point. I don't know who they would. I don't know who they had a ride or die with him now for a little bit. So
No, I'm not saying they can't. Like he'll probably end up finishing out the season at this point. I don't see any other solution. Just the way their board is with him and everything. But it just feels like every other week it's just like, oh, we gotta win. His job is saved, and then next week it's like, oh shit, that performance sucked. Like we gotta get rid of him. And then again, like Ronaldo saves him. Like it's just so much. Like clearly it's not working.
That game could not have come at a better time for him. He won the game. That was the only other manager in danger of being sacked that could also get Antonio Conte. There was only one team that was up for grabs, and it was Tottenham, and he beat them so he can keep his job.
it wasn't the El Saquito, it was the El Conte game.
Yeah, he had the Conte Bowl.
I don't know. It just feels like just rip the Band-Aid in my opinion. But I guess I don't know. I don't
who would you think that they would be able to pull right now if they did sack him?
Sir Alex.
That's the thing. Right now, I don't think it's.
He comes back. He's like, it's been 10 years and I've left it in your hands and you fucked the whole thing up consistently.
Who else? Who was originally after? It was Moyes was first, right?
Moyes, Louis Van Gaal, Jose Mourinho.
Yeah.
I can't remember. It was Ole after Mourinho, or I feel like there was someone.
It was Ole after
Mourinho.
It was okay. So all right. So manager every 2.5 years.
Yeah, well, Moyes lasted 9 months.
Yeah, right. He was pretty in and out.
Yeah.
Van Gaal was there for like a couple years, 3 years. Mourinho was 2 years or so. And
Ole's been since then.
What was that? 2 years? 3 years?
It's probably two years now.
Feels like forever. Feels like 5.
Yeah, it feels like a long time.
I don't think that's a good thing either.
Let me ask you right now, this Manchester United team, top 4?
I think their individual quality of players eventually shines through. Do I think if you're telling me West Ham as a team versus Man U as a team, like West Ham's got that, but I think eventually, I'm never going to say Ronaldo's not making the freaking Champions League. So
yeah, I agree with Steve on that. Like they're going to find a way.
It's kind of terrifying to think they're level on points with Arsenal in 5th and 6th place. So they're like 3 points off the Champions League spots. And I don't think we ever said that about Arsenal. So I don't know if they're overperforming and United's underperforming or what it is, but it's weird to see.
Arsenal also had a very tough start to the year, though. Like we said that about Norwich too. Like granted, Brentford first came back in the Premier forever. You knew the atmosphere and everything was going to be ridiculous. Then Man City, then Chelsea. Like, not the easiest start to schedule.
Agreed.
But yes, they've obviously been doing much better.
All right.
Getting back to it though, we got Norwich 1, Leeds 2.
We do. Pretty dull affair in general in the first half. Leeds opened up the scoring with a pretty sweet little play that saw Rafinha putting the ball right to its home. And a short-lived lead, as we say, as the home side equalized on a corner just a couple minutes later. But then ultimately, Rodrigo restored another lead, another 2 minutes later. A lot of action quickly with Leeds remaining in the 17th spot over 3 points clear of Burnley. Maybe this is a little bit of a revival, for Leeds. It's obviously a good win and they should be beating up on Norwich because it's the lesser team, but still have a little bit of a hole to climb out of. So we'll see how they're able to kind of come back and bounce from that.
Yeah, I'm curious what you guys think, but I think there was no surprises in this one. I mean, Leeds, you expect them to concede a goal. They're shaky at the back. Norwich will have consistently I'll score 1 goal and think we have a chance, and then we'll give up the lead and we'll lose this game. It just felt a lot more of the same for both these guys.
Yeah. It played out exactly how I would have thought it would have played out.
Yeah.
That entire time you're reading that though, Mike, when you said tuck the ball home, all I could think about was Happy Gilmore and him yelling at the freaking butter. I was cracking up in my own mind just now. Getting your home ball. Heading over to Aston Villa, we had them 1, West Ham 4. Ben Johnson opened up the scoring, 7th minute for West Ham, just cutting inside and firing home. Watkins equalized. After that, it was all West Ham. Declan Rice had a nice banger from outside the box. And right after halftime, Konza got sent off for a red card for, I think it was an obvious goal scoring opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And West Ham after that sealed up 2 more and got all 3 points. What's going on with Villa? We already brought up a little bit. What's happening with them? Everyone had
some injuries, like to Leon Bailey, for instance. And I think they're still trying. I think Ollie Watkins, too, if I'm not mistaken. Or
he's back now. He scored this weekend.
Yeah. I mean, there's been the injury issues. They've had that bug, but I think tactically, they're still trying to figure out their best formation and how they want to play post Grealish. And they're
I don't
trying to find the person who's going to step up and like be that playmaker for them.
Yeah, like I don't think they spent the money wrong. I thought they actually did a very good job bringing in quality players. I just like you said, maybe tactically, it's kind of an issue right now. They just don't know how to utilize them all together at their best positions necessarily.
Exactly.
But 15th, I think they're 15th or 16th, a little scary for them.
Yeah, they're about 15 right now. They're only sitting at, I think, 10 points right now.
Yeah, they're at 15 at 10 points.
Yeah. So, I mean, they got a lot to worry about. 4 games in a row without a point, tossing a red card and leaked in 3, 7, oh my God, 10, 12 goals in those 4 games.
Those are Tottenham numbers right there.
They are Tottenham numbers. And Tottenham has they put the least amount of them in, but still.
Yeah.
I'm not too worried about it. I think they'll turn it around.
Agreed. And then props to West Ham. They actually back up in the 4th and a Champions League spot, which they held for the majority of last year, it felt like.
Yeah, until they met Chelsea.
Last 5, 6, or probably 5, 6 games of the season. And then the last game of the weekend, Monday nighter, we had Wolves versus Everton.
Oh yeah, we did. Great game. So pretty much right from the beginning, Wolves in the first 45 minutes blew the roof off of Everton. It looks like Everton had never played a game before. I'm going to be honest. They could barely touch the ball. Jimenez got a nice little chip for a goal for the second goal. First goal was from, I believe, Kilman, if I'm pronouncing the last name correctly.
Yeah.
Had a header on the back post, which was horrendous marking by Everton for that goal. I think they had like 4 players around him, but every single one of them whiffed on the header and he just tucked it home. They ended up nicking 1 goal back through like a little bit of like a deflected shot, but for the most part, Wolves were able to see it out. They looked by far the better team, at least through I'd say 3/4 of that game. There was obviously that 15-minute little interval where Everton were pressing, and once they introduced Fabian Delph, they definitely looked like a better team. However, it was just way too much in the beginning, and some mental mistakes, unfortunately, cost Everton potentially a draw or a point at the Monolith. So,
yeah, I don't like to harp on it because every time they bring them up, I say the same thing. That same story as the last couple of years. Every time there's a couple injuries to that team, it just kind of falls apart for them. And I thought they did a better job at plugging those holes up this year, but it looks like it wasn't enough. I mean, Damari Gray has been good for them for most of the year, but these last couple of weeks, I feel like he hasn't shown up.
Streaky. Very
streaky. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
He was looking like the best signing of the Prem for a while, and now he's fading a little bit. I mean, it was also very hard to keep up the pace he was at. Yeah,
I mean, that Everton team lets in a lot of goals. Good for Wolves, man. Glad to see them doing it. I thought they were playing well when they weren't getting results early in the year. I think you guys were saying that offline before that.
Yeah,
but Everton's let in 16 goals this season. It's the most by the top half of the top table team in the top half. So
yeah,
I don't know.
Very uncharacteristic of a Benitez side too.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, to put that in perspective, Burnley's let in the same amount, and they're sitting in the relegation zone.
Yeah, I mean, like, to kind of go back on Wolves in particular, we've been saying this, like you said, Vito, like the beginning of the year, they were obviously not getting the results, but Bruno Lage in particular has that team playing a specific type of way. There's an identity, and they look.
They all bought into it.
They're frightening right now.
They look fucking dangerous on the counter, like dangerous. They don't even have Traore playing really either in that team, which is even scarier.
It's because of the third deadliest Korean, baby.
I know. He's been a revelation too, in all honesty. He's been a workhorse
this year.
So that team looks pretty good. They're sitting at 7th right now. I think they're on a 6-game unbeaten streak or something along those lines, if I'm not mistaken.
That sounds about right for him.
Yeah, I mean, they're playing lights out. So,
well, they're back in the European spots, so good for them. They had a rough season last year, not qualifying and everything, especially after such a nice revival for the club, the previous one. So, and plus losing Nuno, who was like their head guy.
That might be a blessing in disguise for them.
maybe. Poor guy.
Yeah,
he had everything. Let's head over to our bold predictions for the week and the upcoming match weeks. First off, on Friday night, we got Southampton versus Villa. Is it Southampton 1-0 win. Is that too tough to? I don't know.
I want to go Villa on this one. I think it's their due to snap this streak. I know they're away in the South Coast, out Southampton, but I think this is the game where they turn it around. I know they've had that red card. Mings was kind of an issue for a while, but I think he's going to be not Mings. Oh my God, I can't remember his name.
Konza had the red. If you're talking about him,
yeah, I can't remember his name, but I think they pull it away. I give them a 2-1 win here.
Something about Southampton and the way they grind out wins, like we were just talking about, or not even wins, but the draws in particular. I have a very hard time seeing them not getting a draw in this type of game, given that Southampton has the ability to score. Not necessarily a ton of goals, but defensively they're pretty resolute, or at least it seems like they can be. Villa, known to give up a goal or two, they're kind of streaking in the wrong way. So I'd probably say like a 1-1 draw here, something along those lines.
I'm gonna take the Southampton win. If I was betting on the game, just throwing that out there, I'd probably take the Southampton win, or was it draw no bet? Whereas like if the game draws, bet's funded back. But I find it very hard. Southampton's not getting any points from this game.
Mm-hmm.
Then Saturday morning they kick it off. We got the Manchester Derby. Man U hosting Man City. Who's showing up?
Well,
I think they both are. I know we United have their problems. I know we just spent time talking about each of these teams and their problems, but when it's the Manchester Derby, it is really hard to bet against Manchester United. I just have a really tough time with it. I think they're going to be able to take this one. Not win it, draw.
I'm going to say that not only do they lose this game against City, but they probably lose against Atalanta in the midweek for the Champions League.
Think they're going to lose both games?
I do think they will lose both games, yeah.
Wow.
And I get the feeling that they're going to lose to Man City pretty badly. Like a 3-0 loss, or like a pretty convincing 2-0 loss where they just don't get the ball after City scores like in 2 minutes. It's like 2 goals. So that's the way I see that playing out.
Okay.
Just defensively, they just have a ton of issues, and those 2 teams in particular, I just see them carving them right through that defense. So, and that McFred midfield, if that's what he chooses, Ole chooses to roll with. So.
A McFred midfield would be very, very dangerous.
That's almost like drunk. That's drunk driving at the
wheel. Ole is at the wheel, Mike.
A few too many Heinekens from the Champions League midweek game.
Yeah, well, they're gonna have to drink them to forget. So
possibly. I'm gonna take the Man City win as well. Probably like something like a 3-1. I think Man U nips something out of this. Take the over. I definitely see goals flying in regardless.
I wanted to take the Man City win too, but I can't.
That's all right.
Then we got Chelsea hosting a very tough Burnley team recently.
Yeah, I'm giving it to Chelsea.
I want to give Burnley a fighting chance here, but I think they blew their load with that game they just played last week. So I'm gonna have to say Chelsea.
Okay. Interesting matchup. We got Brentford hosting Norwich. Brentford struggling recently, and Norwich just struggling.
Yeah, they're both not having too good of a time of it, but I will never pick a team to win that has won 0 games out of 10 so far and has accrued 2 draws. I mean, logic would say that Brentford's about to stroll over them, but you never know. But I think Brentford will take all 3 points here. I think this is going to end up being about a 2-1 game.
I would have to agree. It's hard to really bet against Norwich until you see the proof, right? The proof of the pudding. So with that in mind, I think there's only one result, and that's a Brentford win.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. If Norwich was at home, given Brentford's current form, I might say draw.
Agreed.
But nah, Brentford at home, I think it's a bounce back game for them, and they can kind of right the ship a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Then we got actually a really good game, I think. Crystal Palace hosting Wolves.
They definitely match up together very nicely. This will be like a pretty good tactical matchup. Two teams, one coming off a really big high of beating Man City, the other one coming off a pretty honestly solid win against Everton and playing really well in a solid form. I could see this game going a lot of different ways. I could see it being pretty wide open in general. But I think this is one of those games where Palace just came off of that win. They're probably going to be on that high. And I think just slightly, Wolves is a little bit better of a team. And I see Wolves squeaking out like a 1-0 win in this potentially. Probably onto some like bullshit header like late on in the game where Crystal Palace could have maybe got a point, but it's just like one of those learning experience types of games for them. So
I'm going to take that exact same game flow that you did. I think the Wolves header at the end would be just to draw the game, and Crystal Palace loses it, or doesn't lose, but loses all 3 points and then comes away with one of them.
I'm actually with you on that too, Steve. I don't think it's gonna be a last second affair, but I think it will end up as a draw. I think Palace are probably better disciplined than Wolves, but their back line still makes me nervous, even though they just shut out City 2-0. I know it's saying something, but I think it's going to be a draw as well.
Yeah, definitely should be an end-to-end game. I don't know if a bunch of goals will be flowing into the net, but I think we're going to see a hell of a lot of attacking in there.
Yeah. Mike, you said Wolves. You think Wolves are going to take it?
Yeah, Wolves probably 1-0.
Okay, then we move on. We got Brighton hosting Newcastle. I mean, Brighton have been struggling, but can you really say anything other than a win?
No.
Nah, I'd say a Brighton win.
Yeah, I think
unless Alan St. Maximin just
has a magical moment,
pulls a rabbit out of his hat. I don't see anything other.
He goes full Demba Ba, curling one outside the foot, outside
30
the box.
yards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, what's that?
Then we got Arsenal hosting Watford Sunday morning.
Draw.
I'd say Arsenal win. They're a team in form right now. Arteta's got them playing well. I think they get the win here against Watford.
It would 100% be a perfect letdown game for Arsenal.
Yeah,
but I think they're just too much better, or just too much more talented
quality
than Watford is. So I'll take the Arsenal win. Everton hosting Spurs. That's a toughie.
Yeah, shitty defense of Everton versus a pretty shitty defense of Spurs. But again, it's not confirmed yet. But if rumors are to be confirmed tomorrow morning, and it is Antonio Conte, you best believe that those Spurs players are going to be playing for their job,
their life. That guy's crazy.
Yeah. I feel like there's going to be a major bounce in this team that game. I would probably say like a 2-1 win for Spurs.
Yeah, I'm taking the manager sack bump. That was a weird sentence. But yeah, I think Spurs are now going to be a little more free flowing, a little more energetic, and I think they all know they're playing for their lives at this point. So I can see that as well.
I'm gonna take the draw. I don't know.
I can see it. This is a tough one. This is like the only one I didn't have really one either way.
Yeah, this is an absolute just split decision in the moment right now. I'm just gonna take it.
They're both very, very level footing at this point in time, I think.
Just a lot. It just feels like one big mess for both of them. That's really it. Moving on, we got Leeds hosting Leicester.
I mean, Leicester looked very good against Arsenal. Leeds did get the win. I think Leeds probably do not get points against Leicester, just given the way that they were playing, and Leicester would probably be pretty unlucky not to get any points against Arsenal. I think this is kind of like a revenge game for them, and they'll probably sneak away with like 2-1, 3-1, some type of win in that scenario.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that. I think a late Vardy party kind of situation goes on.
Yeah,
I'm the opposite. I think Leeds are going to win this game. I've of all the games I watch, very few of them like crowd atmosphere. I'm actually like astounded, and I'm like, Leeds astonishes me every time. That fan base loves to get behind their team. I don't think they're any slouches, and I think Leicester are just too inconsistent to be playing away from home after that just heartbreaking loss.
Okay. And the last game of the week, probably besides the Manchester Derby, probably the match of the week as well. West Ham versus Liverpool.
Yeah, Moyes has got West Ham playing extraordinarily well, but like I alluded to earlier on this podcast, I still think Liverpool's the most informed team in the world, and I think the most informed team in the world is going to have a bounce back. Probably, like we said, it's going to be a much tougher game against Atletico Madrid. There might be a little bit of a hangover, but I still see them somehow squeaking a win out in general. So
I'm gonna take a 2-2 draw.
2-2 draw, Steve.
Yeah, why not? I like West Ham.
That's a lot. That's a lot of goals for Liverpool team to give up.
Yeah, I was actually leaning back and forth
a lot
between that as well. They're not in Anfield either. I like that pick, Steve. The draw.
Saeed Benrahma, baby.
Coming in hot.
Colonel one from outside the box. He had an assist this past weekend, just saying.
Yeah.
I always got to bring it up.
I know.
Heading over to our final thoughts. We got the prediction counter. Me and Mike tied with 48. Vito with 46. We're not quite beating the bookies yet, so please don't spend your money on us and what we're doing. It's clearly not going to work in your favor.
Disclaimer.
This is not betting advice. What else you guys got before we end the show?
More or less excited to see the US roster drop and see what that looks like. I believe it should be happening later this week, but
yeah,
we'll see what happens, and we'll probably have a podcast dedicated to that in particular. But I want to see a couple names on there, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But should be interesting with Berhalter and company. So
yeah, I agree. I think that's my big point for the week as well. Seeing if, especially to see if Pulisic is going to be on that list, knowing that he's traveling for Champions League, but maybe not wanting to risk another injury when you still have a couple more qualifiers left.
It's Mexico. You bring your best lineup.
I think so too.
The only person I think, Reyna's still out with his hamstring injury, right?
He's not. He's not playing.
He's more like mid-November.
He's not fit enough.
Yeah. So other than him, you bring the top guns.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that'll do it for this episode of the Sunday League Screamers podcast. Give us a like, comment, or hit the bell and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also find us on Spotify, Apple, and anywhere else you get your podcast. Follow us on Twitter at the SL Screamers_pod for daily tweets, updates about the show, and world football in general. I'm your host, Steve, with Vito and Mike signing off.